Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Red Donkey Projections. I'm Eric and we have Lucas as always.
Hey everyone.
So what we're going to be talking about is an in-depth look at the Montana Senate elections. The two candidates we have here is Democrat Steve Bullock, current governor, and incumbent Steve Daines, the incumbent for the Republican Party.
And with that being said, let's get right into it. So let's give some background on this race as we always do. We have Steve Daines. He is moderately popular. And we have Steve Bullock, the current governor of Montana, who is one of the most popular governors in the nation. I think at one point he was the most popular governor, but I think currently I believe he is the most popular Democratic governor. So taking a look at this right now, Steve Daines, as I said before, is the current governor of Montana. Now that name recognition and that kind of popularity is definitely going to help him. I'm sorry, I meant Steve Bullock, not Steve Daines. But Steve Bullock, yes, he's a former governor of the state of, current governor of the state of Montana. That name recognition for his popularity is absolutely going to help him during this time period. Now, Montana is a relatively Republican state, but what's interesting is that they are pretty Democratic on the state level. For example, again, we have a Democratic governor here, Steve Bullock, and one of their senators, Jon Tester, is also a Democrat. So, although they are always voting for the Republican on the presidential level, they do often vote for the Democrat on the statewide races. So that's interesting to keep in mind here. And that kind of type of thing is going to help Steve Bullock here. Name recognition will obviously help him. And I just do want to give a little bit more background here. Before Steve Bullock announced he was joining, it was considered to be a safe race for the Republicans. Initially, Steve Bullock said he wasn't going to run. People thought that he was the only formidable opponent for Steve Daines. So when he decided to run, basically all the experts did put this race as lean R or a toss-up. So yeah, that's my background and my little stuff about Steve Bullock at the moment. Now Eric will head and talk to you about Steve Daines.
Yep. So Steve Daines, as Lucas said, is the Republican candidate. He was born in California, did some business stuff, and eventually made his way to Montana. And here, before, he does have quite a bit of running experience for political seats. For example, he did run in the 2008 gubernatorial election. He did lose, but he did get some experience on how this stuff works. Then he actually he made it to the House of Representatives in 2012, which gave him another set of experience from another political area. And then he then ran for Senate in 2014. So he's really gaining some momentum here. And basically what happened here, this was actually an interesting story. This was going to be a competitive race. His opponent, a Democrat, he did drop out like 50 days before the election. Something unexpected happened, some sort of scandal. So then who replaced this candidate was this woman who was not really experienced. So this basically gave Daines just the easy win. So that's so his race into the Senate was quite interesting. And now he is running for a second term. And this gives him this incumbency advantage. And at the moment, we do think that Steve Daines is going to gain the seat. But I think polling shows otherwise, which we will go to right now.
Yeah, it's definitely really, really close for sure. I do want to also add a point about Steve Daines' experience. Sorry, not Steve Daines. Steve Bullock's experience. He obviously is a governor. I said that earlier. Eric said that earlier. Governor is a pretty good amount of experience as a political candidate because you kind of have that executive experience, even though you don't really need it in the Senate. But it's definitely really helpful because you at least know how to kind of do these things. So in my tiers, governor is in the top tier, so I think that also will help him when he's running for the Senate this year. Now, as Eric said, we're going to now head to the polling, which is actually quite interesting. We got a Wikipedia article here. Although it does say it needs to be updated, this is pretty interesting to look at. Steve Daines is leading by 3 points in the April poll. This is a long time ago, about 2 months ago, but I think it's interesting to see. And we also see that Steve Bullock is leading in the other poll by 7%, which is, again, that's a lot. The other poll is tied, and I believe the 538 poll I read before also showed him leading. It was conducted on May 5th. So this is interesting to see that we're seeing Steve Bullock actually leading in polling, which most YouTubers like us, we do put the state as a toss-up, but we do see a slight edge for Steve Daines here, given the political climate in Montana. But with that being said, there is a high chance that Steve Bullock can take this seat. There's definitely no surprise if that happens. I also do now want to take a look at fundraising numbers. This is a little bit outdated as well. It says the last report for Steve Bullock was on 513. And fundraising usually is a good way to tell if a candidate's probably going to win a seat or not. Because kind of the more money you have, the more money you can spend on ads. And additionally, it kind of shows how much support you have, how much money people are donating, although people might donate $1 million, but it's still a good indicator of that. Steve Daines, according to this, in this 2020 cycle, has raised almost double of what Steve Bullock has. So that's not really looking that good for Steve Bullock as well. And I know many people have been getting lots of ads on like YouTube or something with like Mitch McConnell, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio saying to donate to Steve Daines. So honestly, I do think the Republicans are pushing out a lot of ads trying to kind of get that to happen. All right, Eric, you want to discuss quickly the race ratings, what the kind of the races say?
Yep. Yeah, so these are what the experts say. Here we see the Cook political report, which we reference quite often, and we also see Sabato's crystal ball, and they all, except Cook political report, and these are recent polls, more recent than the previous two charts. They do think that Steve Daines will take the seat in a lean margin, and I kind of agree with this because yes, Montana may be Democratic in a few aspects, but they are Republican in other aspects as well. So, and if the experts are putting it as lean Republican, this could very possibly be the actual result in November.
You know, in my opinion, I would actually say it's more of a tilt. If I had to characterize it, it'd be a tilt. For me, it's a pure toss-up. And you can see our predictions, we say that too. I do want to say something about Cook political report, though. I think Cook is a little bit more lenient on their, not lenient, like more centrist on their predictions. So they put it as a toss-up here. If I remember in 2018, during the midterms, they actually put the state of New Jersey Senate race as a toss-up. This was between Bob Menendez and Bob Hugin. And I believe that Bob Menendez did defeat Bob Hugin in a pretty sound margin. I believe 8%, somewhere around there. They put that one as a toss-up. So they are a little bit more centrist on their rating, so we do have to keep that into account. And I also do want to take a look at past elections, because this is a good indicator of what might happen. John Tester, as I mentioned earlier in this video, defeated his opponent by 4%. That's pretty decent. It's kind of hard to do in a state like Montana, where there are a lot of those Republican voters out here. 2014, I think Eric mentioned this race. Amanda Curtis and Steve Daines did have a relatively victory there. But yeah, I think that Montana is definitely a key race that we will look forward to looking at during election night this November, and we will be keeping track of throughout this election cycle. And that's the end of the video for today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you like our content, please hit subscribe. We'll see you in our next video tomorrow.
See ya.